The Alpha Sessions.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Alpha Sessions. Today I'm Lucy Wroe. I'm with Caitlin Mae. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Finally, this is your fourth chat with us, third or fourth?
I think so, yeah, but finally getting to meet you in person.
First time, and we're very lucky to have you in. You're a very active musician as a performer, as your socials, just as a person, your releases. You're always busy. Very well seasoned performer already. Started very young, if I'm right.
Super young.
What's your beginnings in music, your first musical memory that made you just fall in love with it?
So I always had this extreme passion for music and performing and the arts, and that was from a super young age. I don't know whether it was watching, TV and watching musicals and that kind of thing that maybe encouraged me as a child to want to try it out. But I always just knew it was the path for me, and I started in musical theatre, which is probably the furthest thing from what I do now. But living where I did, in the UK, there wasn't a whole lot of options or people out there telling me, well, you could do country music or you could do rap or there's so much that you could do. So at the time, there seemed to be a lot of opportunities within musical theatre. So I started off doing that. And in a way, I look back and I'm glad because it meant that I was more well-rounded because I got to dance and I got to act as well as sing. And I'm not going to say the dancing really rubbed off on me much, but I think acting and singing will always just be such a passion of mine. Yeah. And even though I've kind of strayed from acting a little bit more now, just because the music is so time consuming and takes up probably all my energy and more, but I love it. It's just not possible to do both at the moment, and hopefully in the future I'll be able to kind of juggle my time a little bit better. But for now, music is just completely filling my life.
Good. I mean, musical theatre is a good start, I think. We've met a lot of artists on Alpha Sessions who do start with musical theatre, and it gives you that presence and just experience as well on stage. And it means you're such a natural performer now. So you've released quite a lot. Your first release was back in 2019?
Yes, yeah.
As a single?
Yeah, and it was called The Dream, which kind of started it all for me. And I do really believe that everything happens for a reason, because the dream is not actually my sound. It's completely different to how I sound now, and honestly different to how I wanted to sound at the time even. But I think I had probably less confidence in the studio trying to portray exactly what I wanted production wise, and I couldn't play an instrument, so I couldn't just pick up a guitar and say this is what I want. So that was a journey in itself, and it was much more traditional, but I am glad that I started there, and my followers and listeners are called dreamers now, so it definitely holds a special place in my heart.
And that is, as you say, it's a very different sound, but I think a lot of people look back on their early stuff and they think like, oh, why did I do that? Or they think about deleting it. And I always chat about this because it's nice to see your progression. Yeah. Right. So, I mean, your most recent single came out in January, which, I mean, congrats. It's called Fiona.
Thank you so much. Yes.
And you performed it for us today. And it's very different to The Dream.
It's so different. And I think it's even different to all my other releases, because some of them kind of follow a theme, and I released like my debut EP Perspective, and sonically that is so much different to Fiona, but it felt right, and it was actually the very first song that I wrote acoustically when I learnt to play guitar in lockdown. So that is another special song to me and feels like a milestone, just because I decided this one day to sit down and write this song. It was in lockdown, and I just felt the creative juices flowing, and I'd never actually been able to write a song previous to that with the guitar as well, just because I was so new to it. And it was a very different experience, and my songwriting process has evolved and changed so much even since then.
So you're talking about your sound changing. It's interesting you mentioned your songwriting process is changing, and I like talking about songwriting processes. But how did you know that was the right song to release at the time? Your first song, I mean. So you were writing very differently, and you started musical theatre. So that first release process, I guess you self-released it?
The Dream?
The Dream, yeah. How did that go then?
That was a totally different experience to every release since then, because I had no idea about promotion. I had no idea that you should try and have this campaign set up before the release. So I just thought things get released on the day and then they do well or they don't do well. And so I don't even know if the dream charted anywhere. I don't know really if people bought it prior to that, because I didn't even say to people, hey, it's available to buy or pre-order. I had no idea, and I think it was definitely a learning curve, but a good lesson. And I'm glad that it happened prior to lockdown, because lockdown meant a lot of downtime where I could learn and grow as an artist and do a lot more behind the scenes, which scared me prior because I'm not very technical, and all of the behind the scenes and filming things and going live was very foreign to me. And I just took this leap of faith in lockdown, because I said, if I don't do it now, I never will. I'll just keep putting it off and telling myself that now's not the time and there'll be opportunity to learn in the future. And I kind of think that if you don't grasp the opportunity, then and there, when it's right in front of you, then you'll just procrastinate, which I had done a lot of. So I'm glad that lockdown was that experience for me, and I got to grow and expand my community within music, because so many other organisations and radio stations and artists all went online too, because it was our only option, and the networking was just incredible, and it was such a support system too.
Do you feel like because of that learning curve and that evolution that Fiona has had a good reception? Has it been a good start to the year?
It really has, and it actually hit number 1 in the singer-songwriter charts on iTunes, which shocked me because it was the first time that I'd ever put my song in for a category other than country, just because I felt like Fiona was sonically so different. It had synth in it, it had that kind of rocky edge to it, and it was a super different topic to what I'd previously written about and released. So it was a bit uncertain at first, just because you never know how people are going to receive things, and the stories I'd told prior and things I'd experienced and written about in my songs, all my dreamers had definitely received really well, and some of them had related to it, and there was so much support. But Fiona was just a first for me, and I'm really glad again that I did release that, and that it's going to be part of a bigger project coming out this year, because people do again seem to have felt that way at some point in their lives. The song was kind of about loneliness and just delved into that world, and it's not something that I think one that I talk about, even though I feel like I'm an open book, but I don't really talk about it a lot. And also I'm super bubbly and talkative, so usually people think if you're smiling then there's nothing behind that, and there often is.
Riding in on a white horse, thinking I should have stayed at home, holding on to the silent nights I spent all on my own. My mirror shows those stormy eyes I've come to know so well. Fake a smile for all to see outside the gates of hell. My princess towers taller than Fiona's. She's the lucky one in my book. My fire-breathing dragon who's deceiving, he could kill with just one look. The sky outside my window paints a picture I can't reach, a taste of something beautiful and just too good for me. I'm haunted by this empty room and shadows on the wall. I try to leave, but no one's there to catch me if I fall. My princess towers taller than Fiona's. She's the lucky one in my book. My fire-breathing dragon who's deceiving. He could kill with just one look. Get out now, don't make a sound. Feet on the ground, run. My princess towers taller than Fiona's. She's the lucky one in my book. My fire-breathing dragon who's deceiving. My princess towers taller than Fiona's. She's the lucky one in my book. My fire-breathing dragon who's deceiving. He could kill with just one look. He could kill with just one look.
The Alpha Sessions.
Now, fast forward to, you talked about your upcoming project a little bit there, and I want to talk more about it. So Fiona's going to be a part of this, right? So there's another single coming out called Seasons Change.
Yes.
Which is the EP title?
Yes, so it's the next single and also the name of the EP, and I am just so excited for the whole project to be released, but I think in a way I need to try and tame myself and control myself and dial it back, because I don't want to kind of fast track the whole release. I want to enjoy it as it's moving along naturally. And the next single comes out on the 24th of March, and I'll be in Nashville touring again, so I'll be holding a launch party in Nashville, and I'm so excited just because it's the first release that will be coming out when I'm actually in Music City where it was recorded, so that'll be a super different experience, and I'll be surrounded by different people to what I am when I'm in the UK, just because it is difficult, even though having an online presence allows you to connect with people all over the world. You can only be with the people in the area that you're in at the time in person, so it'll be nice to have that change but still have access to sharing it with people online all across the world and not just in the US.
Yeah. Now we need to talk about Nashville, because this is a big thing. This is a huge thing. For country stars, I know it's like the place to be. I mean, America in general, the country scene is huge compared to here. And I am interested in how you feel. I don't talk to a lot of country artists, so it's new for me. How do you feel about the global country scene as a country star, or thinking about being a country star? What does it feel like being in the UK compared to being in Nashville?
It is hugely different, but it also shows diversity, and I think it's nice to see country music coming out of the UK and coming out from different places worldwide, and the fact that the genre is growing. And sometimes it still shocks people if they say you're a singer, so what kind of a singer are you? What do you sing? And you say country music, and they're either really, really skeptical or they love country music. There's like no in between. And I think that is slowly changing, and people do have more of an open mind than they did, like 10 years ago. 10 years ago, they would have been like, it's Dolly Parton or nothing.
Yeah.
And now people do know the modern stuff, and they've seen series like Nashville, which again I think really broadened the country music horizons, worldwide, because it was such a popular series with incredible soundtracks. But going to the US and traveling, not just in Music City, everywhere, but Music City especially, is like delving into a whole new world. Everybody loves music in general. Country music is usually where their passion lies, and they love original material, which is really special because sometimes people make up their mind about you before they've heard your songs just because you're not singing covers. But in Nashville, a lot of the time, they actually only allow you to perform if you are performing originals, which is incredible.
Yeah. How did you first make your move to Nashville? Is that something you used to dream about and then you just sort of saved up for it and went over there and just tried it out? Or did you have an opportunity? Did someone reach out?
So 4 years ago, maybe 5 now, just because time has really gone on.
Yeah.
I was invited out there by an organisation, and I was going to be a spotlight artist at a venue. I think it was Music City Bar and Grill in the heart of Nashville. And then I was going to be recording a cover album with them of 12 songs. So at the time, I didn't have so many original songs under my belt. I couldn't play an instrument, and I was still excited to go. But then I was cast in a BBC iPlayer series called Teen Taxi, and I was filming that summer when I was supposed to travel to Nashville. So it wasn't meant to be at that time, and I just thought Nashville will still be there next year. This opportunity might not be. So I filmed, and I postponed Nashville to the following year, which was fine with the organisation. We still were going to do everything we'd planned. And then I was recast for season 2. So again, I stayed, postponed it for a 3rd year. Then COVID hit, and for 2 years, travel restrictions were just so heightened that it was impossible. And then I learned to play guitar during lockdown, and my original material just increased tenfold. And by that time, I didn't really feel like it was the right thing to do, to go out there and record a covers album. I wanted to be out there recording original music and sharing my stories and experiences with the world and telling the stories behind those songs. So that was just the right time. I think everything really did pan out for the best and happened for a reason. And I got out there for the first time in May last year, and it was a whole new world. I already knew that I loved America because my parents owned a holiday home in Florida from when I was 2 years old. So I knew I loved the way of life out there. And it was exactly the same. We arrived in Nashville, and you walk outside of the airport and you're just like, I'm home. This is where I'm meant to be. I didn't even want to drop the suitcases off at the hotel, but my parents were like, we have to do that. We're not walking around Broadway with 4 suitcases. No. So we went back to the hotel, dropped everything off, and that was it. I was like, we're not doing anything. There's not even time to freshen up. We're going to Broadway. And Broadway was so unbelievably busy. It was crazy. We were shoulder to shoulder, and that was on a weekday. So they just never sleep. They don't rest. It's just crazy. And there are tourists, obviously, visiting all year round. So you're always meeting new people, not just people who live in town. And a lot of people migrate. They don't live. They weren't born there. So you're just meeting so many different people from all sorts of walks of life. So it's really, really special to make those connections.
I guess that must be quite inspiring. So you say you learnt guitar, and now you're going to take that and doing your original music and moving out to Nashville. Are you moving out there?
Yes, I am moving in July. I haven't settled on a date yet, just because I got accepted into Belmont University, which came as a shock to me because I left high school in the middle of my first year exams, which was a super important time. And I'd always loved school. I'd always loved learning. It was the social aspect, even though I love socialising. I was really badly bullied in school, so I didn't have friends or any kind of support system. And I left, obviously, in the middle of first year exams, didn't know where to go from there. There was no support from the school. So I taught myself. I bought all the books myself, which was an expensive game. Taught myself at home, and it was just me and my dog at home. My parents own a business, so they would both be in work, full time, because it's their job not only to be employees, but to be bosses. So I was sat at home thinking, I don't even know if I'm teaching myself the right curriculum. This could be a disaster. I took the exams at an exam centre, and luckily I came out with mostly A's and A stars, which again shocked me, and I decided to take more than just that maths and English, which a lot of the people in these exam centres just take the bare minimum, which is English and maths, because it's too difficult to teach yourself all these subjects. But I didn't want to lose out on what I would have achieved being in mainstream school. So I decided to push myself. It was very stressful. I took all the exams that I possibly could, minus science, because I did not want to take science. I don't understand
You
science.
don't need science.
And these were the grades that I had to get transcribed and submit to the university. So again, I didn't know you had to have a certain grade point average. That's totally different to what it is in the UK. And I got accepted, and I didn't realise, but apparently it's a really difficult university to get into. So I just thought, I'll submit these grades, see where it goes. And, you know, if the winds don't take me in that direction, then that's okay too. And I got in, and I just felt like I have to make everything in my power work for me to be able to attend, because that just seems like my path. So I'm fundraising now, and I just submitted my 3 self-tape auditions for the School of Music itself, because I got into the uni and then you have to do whatever it is for that specific course that you're going to be taking. So it's been a lot of hard work, but I love to be busy. I very rarely have free time, because when I do have free time, I find a way to fill it. So it's definitely taken up a lot of time lately, but it's been a welcome busyness.
Yeah, but it's good to make opportunities. I think it's like a really underrated skill in music, having that business side of things. If you can push yourself that much, then you just make your own opportunities wherever you go. And like America, for a lot of people, would seem like a big ask. Going over there, I don't know what I'd do if I go out. I'd land and I'd cry and then I go back home again. So it's a lot. But not only is all this going on, you're having a little tour, right? You're going on tour. Next month.
Yes, I'm going to go on tour. I'm really excited. It'll be mainly in Nashville, just because once I'm there, it's difficult to kind of travel and tour all the states that I would like to before I move. Once I move and I'm situated in Nashville full time, then I want to kind of broaden the horizons. I want to tour in Florida quite a lot, because there's so many opportunities again for songwriters out there. The weather is always beautiful, and Florida does hold a very special place in my heart, just because I grew up there, back and forth between the UK and Florida, and it was just my safe haven, especially during those difficult times in school. I would look forward to when we just flew out there and I could leave all my worries behind. And I even wrote a song about that, and it's called Sunshine State. And Florida just felt like a place where all my bullies and my demons couldn't touch me, they couldn't reach me. And again, that's kind of what the States in general does for me. So Nashville is just a dream that I have been manifesting for so long, and it feels like it's finally arrived.
I sure got a lot to say. God, I've never felt this way. Boy, you were my very first date. Let me get one thing straight. It goes a little something like this. You try real hard for a little bit, then you give up and I give in. But it's only been 2 weeks, and I've been stood up once and let down twice. I've given you enough chances to convince me otherwise, but you give me player vibes. Player vibes. I remember meeting you in a coffee shop out of the blue. Is it still fate when it goes wrong, or just inspo for a song? When you blow out your candles this spring, will you wish you kept on walking? That way you don't have to see my face or beat me in the moving on race. 2 weeks, and I've been stood up once and let down twice. I've given you enough chances to convince me otherwise, but you give me player vibes. That's right, player vibes. You give me getting caught out, sneaking around, getting too drunk and being too loud, forgetting your name, walk of shame, and do it all over again. You give me bad pickup lines that usually work. Maybe they would if I was her. Bachelor life at every night, kissing your best friend's wife. You give me player vibes. Uh-huh. It's been 2 weeks, and I've been stood up once and let down twice. I've given you enough chances to convince me otherwise. It's been 2 weeks, and I've been stood up once and let down twice. I've given you enough chances to convince me otherwise, but you give me player vibes. Player vibes. Yeah, you give me player vibes.
The Alpha Sessions.
As for writing, I do want to talk to you more about that. You did 2 other songs for us that are both unreleased, right? So, Drink of Choice, which I really like, that's a catchy little one, and Player Vibes, which is intriguing because, I mean, we were talking about it a little bit in there while you were playing, but this is to do with being in Nashville. Right?
Yes, yeah.
I don't know how much you want to talk about, and that's up to you.
I would say that I'm going to be... This is going to make me sound really bad, but I would say that I'm going to be super respectful and not delve into the story, but I have already. So I have previously on interviews and live streams. Yeah. So there's no going back really, and I can't make it any worse than I already have for myself. So it's about this cowboy
nice.
that I met in Nashville, and he's a great guy. He's great.
You're holding back.
I'm trying to be nice. He's a great guy. He's just not the right fit for me. It was my first ever dating experience, and you know, it's very rare that you go on a first date and you go, this person is the one, this is my soulmate. I just looked at him and it was love at first sight, and that just wasn't really what I felt. And he actually proposed to me on the first date.
What?
So
now this is interesting.
Yeah, and he also didn't have a ring because I guess it wasn't premeditated. I don't think he was like, I'm going to take this girl on a date and propose to her. I guess it just happened spontaneously. That doesn't happen to me very often, where I just spontaneously want to propose to people. Wow. But I guess it's different if you're a cowboy.
Hey, that's confidence. I'll give him that. He's got confidence.
Yeah, and then I had to try and figure out how to like turn it into a joke or say no really politely. And I already know that a lot of the time Americans kind of think the British can be quite like sharp. Mm-hmm. So I was trying to say to not be that stereotype. I don't know. But I was wearing a ring. I was wearing this ring. And he didn't have a ring and asked me to remove this ring so he could propose to me with that ring. And I didn't tell him this story, so if he listens to this interview, then he'll know. But another guy actually gave me this ring, made me this ring, and it's a beautiful ring, and I love it. So it was just... No. It was just awkward. But he's very sweet, and I'm sure that he will find somebody who wants to get married really quickly, and they are going to ride off into the sunset on one of his many horses. And I really do wish them well. And I hope I'm invited to the wedding because I feel I should attend.
You should play.
I should play.
Not this song, but maybe some others that aren't.
Maybe. I did write one that was slightly nicer about him, and that sounds like he proposed to me and then I wrote horrible songs about him. There was a lot in between there. There's like this timeline, and I actually only saw him twice in person, but a lot went on from back then to now. And I wrote one song that was actually kind of like an apology, because I'd written these songs like Player Vibes and Good Guy Facade and all these. So then I thought, what if I'm wrong and he's actually a really nice guy and he hasn't done anything like wrong. So I wrote a song called Lost Cowboy, and then I changed my mind. I was like, no, I'm right. And then I wrote another like 10 songs after that, which were like, no, I'm right.
See, I feel like songs often get misconstrued and people think that's really hurtful, but actually there's so much more that you're thinking of. But also, when you're writing, it's not always like this is exactly what happened.
No.
You start with an idea, or it inspires you to write a song. So it's not exactly, I wouldn't say it's me. I think it's natural.
Yeah,
you're getting
exactly.
your feelings out, and then you're just creating a piece of art. Like, it's not the same as just, this is what happened.
Yeah, exactly, because you have to add all, like, you can't exactly add in every single important tiny detail that happened along the way with your in-person experience with that person. And then it turns into a song, and that song develops from so many feelings and emotions, not just experiences, but the things you felt. And feelings are totally different because feelings are so subjective, and what you felt might not be what they felt. So it is a dangerous game to play, because I've written songs about people before. I think probably all songwriters have. But I usually don't release them or play them until like years later, or until they're not in my life anymore, depending on the situation. And this time I didn't do that. I was still like in the middle of the mess when I started writing these songs, not just writing them but playing them live, and that probably is my bad. I probably shouldn't have done that, because I definitely think it caused a bit of tension between us. That's my bad. I take full responsibility for that. I won't do it again.
Alternatively,
after this.
Alternatively, the final song you play, Drink of Choice, it's very different. It's a very different atmosphere. It feels a lot more upbeat. It's not angry.
No.
I mean, take me through it. Take me through Drink of Choice. This is unreleased.
Drink of Choice, I'm actually super excited to release that in the future. Hopefully I'll get the chance to record it in the studio this year and release it. Lovely. If not, early next year, but I'm hoping for this year. Drink of Choice was such a fun one to write and to play live too. And it is kind of exactly what it says and talks about in the lyrics. It's kind of about knowing somebody is bad for you. It's like an addiction, whether, that's to drink, but to a person, it's something that sometimes you can't escape. You like this person, or you're drawn to them even if you know they're bad for you, and it's hard to shake that sometimes. And you can have all these people chiming in too, and sometimes the opinions and people's thoughts are welcome, and other times they're not, and sometimes you should be taking their advice on board, but you're not ready to let go of that person yet. So you keep ignoring it, or you keep pushing the advice to the side. And I get a lot of advice from my parents, because I love that about my parents, and my relationship with them is just so open. I always ask them, what do you think about this, or what advice would you give me? And I love to take it on board too, because I think there are so many mistakes to make in this life. So if you can avoid some of them because your parents have already experienced those things, they've already made those mistakes, then that's brilliant, because there are another 10 mistakes waiting to be made that they haven't made yet, and those mistakes are for you to make. So I just think it's nice to kind of to use their experience and try and apply it to your life in certain areas. But it doesn't always work out, and sometimes against your better judgment you will chase after somebody, or maybe allow them to chase after you without cutting it off. And sometimes it ends well, and other times it doesn't, and it's just...
Indeed. And without all of these experiences, you wouldn't write such great songs. So
exactly.
It all pays off in the end.
Yeah. I can't remember who it was, but somebody was telling me a story about this guy who was a songwriter, and he became quite big. I just can't remember his name. And he wrote all these brilliant songs, but he'd had like a really difficult life, like a really rough life. And then his life got so much better. I think because, fame came into it, so he didn't have money problems, and he like had a family now. And then he was like, I have no inspiration for my songs anymore. My songs sound awful because they're happy. And so he would take himself to like a really run down, abandoned place, and he would just like drink and write sad songs. And even though his life was actually brilliant, he had to pretend like it wasn't to write a good album. And I'm like, that actually makes a lot of sense. Luckily, I don't have to go to those extremes because everyday experiences, I feel like, filter into my songs. So I don't need to go and, hire a
shadows.
Yeah, I don't need to go and stay in a really horrible motel and pretend like my life is awful. Luckily, I don't need to do that, and I find inspiration in so many things, whether it's small inconveniences or incredible opportunities or journeys that you have yet to go on. I think life is just full of inspiration and things to write about.
Yes. And I think you've got a lot more to come. I think it's going to be a big year. I'm excited for you to be in Nashville.
Thank you so much.
If anybody seeing this is in Nashville at the time through March, then look out for Caitlin Mae. Where can people find you if they want to find you on social media?
So you can find me across all social media at Caitlin Mae Music, except for Twitter, annoyingly. And that's Caitlin Mae UK. And it's Caitlin and Mae Mae. So just not the way you'd probably expect to spell it. And my tour dates are also up on my website. So for UK and Nashville and the US in general. So if you guys are in Nashville in March, then please do check it out. It's on my website, which is caitlinmae.com.
And Seasons Change is on the way. Remind us the date.
Yes, so Seasons Change is available to pre-order and pre-save from right now, and it comes out on March 24th.
Brilliant. Well, thank you for coming in, Caitlin. It's been amazing having a chat with you here.
Thank you so much for having me. I've had a blast. You're my drink of choice, not good for me, but you drown out all the noise. And I think that's beautiful and dangerous and everything my mom told me to avoid. Yeah, I'm such a mess, so I call my dad 'cause I'm his princess. Don't get me wrong, he doesn't know the half of it, and I won't tell him one more sip so I can keep pretending. You embody everything I hate, but then you smile and I can't wait to let you lie to me again. Yeah, you like the sound of your own voice, and just your name gets me annoyed, but I can't help it if you're my drink of choice. You're my whiskey neat, don't need anything else when you're holding me. But then you let go and I'm alone with just my thoughts and like a million other shots, so I rinse and repeat. Please, just one more round, then I promise I'll go home and figure out how to get over you. You're the Baileys to my cream, the gym to my beam, but I'm sober now. You embody everything I hate, but then you smile and I can't wait to let you lie to me again. Yeah, you like the sound of your own voice, and just your name gets me annoyed, but I can't help it if you're my drink of choice. I know every liquor store and every bar would lock their doors if they thought I was giving up for good. 'Cause this is just a small town, but I don't dream of getting out, so they don't have to worry, 'cause you're my drink of choice. You
paranoid, but I can't help it if you're my drink of choice. You're my drink of choice.